I'm Jeff Smith. Welcome to Leading Edge this week. Ohio's governor says the state has a reputation as a premier hub for innovation. One of the people put in charge of that momentum is Ohio Director of Development and former Findlay Mayor Lydia Mihalik.
It absolutely is a top priority here for the DeWine Hughes administration and for communities across the state, not just for, as you said, Central Ohio. You know, I think we have some longstanding industries that have really driven the economy here across the state. Agriculture, automotive, the automotive sector, but you know, seeing what was possible with Intel taking a look at Ohio and how that could really not only transform Central Ohio but the rest of the state has really given us a ton of energy and excitement and enthusiasm. We knew that there was a real possibility that if we could perhaps get Intel to say yes, that you know, the sky was going to be the limit for us here. And you know, what we have seen is, you know, when Intel first was announced a couple of years ago, we had 150 suppliers in the semiconductor industry here to Intel. And in just the last couple of years, that number has now grown to 300. And some of those suppliers are new here to the state of Ohio, but most of them were existing here. And of those 300, you know, they're in 33 counties across the state. So what we're seeing is that this innovation economy throughout the state of Ohio continues to grow, and it's driving, you know, higher paying jobs. And it's doing a lot of really good things for our state, and we're seeing a lot of different counties across our state taking advantage of it.
Yeah, I was down in New Albany, obviously, for the announcement, and the shovel started turning, obviously, on that day. But there was also a lot of talk, Lydia, about kind of the tidal wave that would crest out from Central Ohio and reach other parts of the state. I got to ask you, because the governor, he went back to the Ohio Department of Transportation and said, I want to have this money very much going toward the study of US 23 and creating a faster route between Northwest Ohio and Columbus, because we've been told, you know, a lot of the carryover from Intel won't happen because you've got 30 to 40 stoplights between here and Delaware, which is, from a logistics standpoint, that does not help us, right?
It's a really big deal. And I got to tell you that study, you know, we're here at the Department of Development working with the Department of Transportation right now, currently on that study. And look, I know how important, you know, that route is, 23 from Northwest Ohio down to Central Ohio. I drive it every week, multiple times. I know how frustrating it is. I know how important the safety is to everyone who travels it on a daily basis. I know how important it is to the trucks that you know, carry the very important supplies that are part of the supply chain back and forth from Northwest Ohio down you know, to Central Ohio every day. And we want to make sure that, you know, again, it was very important to both Governor DeWine and Lieutenant Governor Husted that every part of Ohio get to take advantage of the momentum that is being created by the Intel announcement. And so, you know, ODOT is currently in the process of doing that study. We're going to make sure that we take, you know, every piece of data that we can get and every piece of input that we can get from the logistics companies that currently utilize that route, to the individuals that want to, you know, provide input to make sure that we get it right. And you're right, you know, it's going to take some investment, some significant investment. And I know that in
our lifetime. You think we'll see it in our lifetime?
Absolutely. I absolutely do think we're going to see it in our lifetime. Now, do I think it may be the traditional way that we've always handled congestion and safety projects? I don't know, but I do know that you know, this governor, this lieutenant governor, have always challenged us to think big and to get it right. And I feel good about where we're going.
When you go about the state, or when you are working with the governor's office trying to lure, and I'm sure it's a global view, it's not just a U.S. domestic view as far as companies that can come in. Intel's a perfect example of that. But what is part of the pitch? How are you pitching Ohio? Obviously, new slogan, the heart of it all. But is that part of the pitch when you go into these boardrooms?
The pitch is this: we've got the best educational institutions that are here. We've got the best people in the world that live here. We've got the best communities to grow in, and we've got the best place to do business. And we feel like that value proposition is what is winning these big projects. And whether that's new businesses or existing businesses that already know that story, I think if you put us up against anybody else in the United States or around the world, I think we're going to win 9 times out of 10. And it just makes the job a lot easier when you've got a great team. And the governor is a great front man. The lieutenant governor does a great job by his side, and it's just been a great 4 years. And we've been really fortunate to have a good team to get this stuff done day by day.
When we return, we talk about the Findlay Formula. Welcome back. Ohio Director of Development Lydia Mihalik is our guest. I asked her about her day-to-day and what towns and cities of Ohio are asking of her.
And I think the key to what we at the Department of Development have been able to provide over the last several years is resources to really create this environment that's conducive for investment. And we are in an unprecedented time where the state has been able to bring to bear resources for local leaders to be able to invest in the things that people probably don't think about a lot. The everyday citizen doesn't think about it's infrastructure, right? It's the water and the sewer that's necessary for our everyday lives. It's the roads, it's the bridges, it's the things that we really rely on. And this is unprecedented investment. It's billions of dollars. And when the state can come alongside our local communities to help make these investments, it makes these investments affordable, which helps make things for families affordable. And these are investments that have needed to be done for decades. And I know we have several examples of that in the Northwest Ohio area, investments where we've done things in our water plants and our sewer plants, assistance in helping with brownfield remediation and some of our sites that have been left behind by former industrial users. We've got a lot of buildings in the downtown Toledo area that I know that we've been of assistance with. And these are just things that wouldn't have been able to be done without these dollars. And when we take care of these things, it really helps make communities more attractive to the private sector, and it helps makes things so that they pencil out. And I just think that that's overall helping Ohio be a more attractive place to do business. It just makes it more affordable. And Ohio's in a very unique position because I think we're just better. We're better off than a lot of other states are right now. And we've really used this time coming out of the pandemic to make these smart investments. And I know that the governor, lieutenant governor, and I, and the rest of the team are really appreciative of the General Assembly and the work that we've been able to do together to partner with our local officials to get these very important projects done.
I wanted, and I kind of labeled it, I don't know if it's ever been called this before, maybe I'm not recreating the wheel, but the Findlay Formula. And I don't know if you go around the state saying, well, back in Findlay, back when I was in Findlay, we used to do X, Y, and Z. But honest to goodness, Lydia, there is something to it, right? Because it continues to have success. The city continues to see investment. Obviously, having Marathon there is a big catch, and having Goodyear there as well. But I just wondered from a standpoint of their pitch, their marketing, their branding, and what you took from that and take around the state.
Yeah, so the Findlay Formula, it is a thing, and it's actually really simple, and it's a collaborative spirit. It's the public-private nonprofit sector working together, and it's actually something that I see in other communities across the state working very well, and it's just something that's really been branded. And I think in Columbus they call it the Columbus Way. And there are communities that have their own simple formula that is in place, and the communities that have that working together and that that intentional collaboration, where nobody really cares about who gets the credit. It's just about getting things done and being very deliberate and intentional about things. When you have that going for you and you're working together, and where you want to go, then then things kind of just they happen. And that has been going on in Findlay for a really long time, and I think that's really why they've been so successful. And it's nice to be able to utilize that as a great example in other places around the state. And yes, admittedly, I do use it as a great example, but it's because it's one that works. And it's one that I'm very, very proud of.
I guess if these formulas exist, why don't we see the same playbook playing out in Toledo? Obviously, Rossford's doing something right.
Yeah.
You've got other areas. Middleton Township is starting to kind of knock on the door. What do you know about the interest? And we'll wrap it up here, but I know we can't name names, and this is something that's been worked on for years. I talked, part of the show today is Wade Gottschalk, economic developer for Wood County. But what are we trying to do as far as bringing in these quote unquote data centers, and what is the lure to them? Why are they so important? Because it's not a lot of jobs, but they're a big power user, and it's an investment nonetheless.
Yeah, well, what I will tell you is that, I actually do see a lot of collaboration and teamwork and great things happening in the Toledo and Lucas County area. And I talk in a very positive way about the things that are happening up there in Northwest Ohio. And you've got a lot of really awesome things to be very proud of. And I'm really excited about what's happening along the river in the Toledo and Lucas County area. In fact, it's a great example for what we're hoping to see down along the Ohio River, down in the Appalachia communities. We've got about $500 million that we want to be able to invest in the next 2 years. And I've told a lot of those communities to go up and take a look at what's happening in Toledo. So, I would say that that there is actually a lot of that quote Findlay Formula action happening in the Toledo and Lucas County area. In terms of data centers, look, I think Ohio is actually very uniquely positioned to be a good hub for those types of things. And we've seen a lot of that activity in Central Ohio, but we're also seeing it up in the Northwest Ohio area as well. Ohio actually has some very unique incentives to help with attracting those particular data centers. The Midwest actually is a very great place for that. I think you think about all of the hot names and the Googles and the AWSs for those, but also there are other very familiar household names like Kroger and Progressive as well. But yeah, I think that we are actually uniquely positioned, and the communities that are the most hungry for those particular types of jobs and those that have the infrastructure necessary, whether that's the available land, the water, the electricity, and those types of things that are necessary to facilitate that development, are going to be the ones that win. But I think being hungry for that type of development is actually what's necessary. And you can bet that the state of Ohio is going to be here to be a good partner to see people be successful in those endeavors.
All right, stay right there. What's driving economic development in Wood County when we return? So what's needed more in Wood County, housing or businesses? Here's my conversation with Wade Gottschalk.
I mean, it's always both, right? I mean, from a business perspective, you're always going to have kind of the ebb and flow of the market, right? You're going to always have some new businesses. You're always going to have, unfortunately, old businesses or other businesses that are going to move on. They may expand in other locations or whatever. From a housing perspective, absolutely, we need that. That's pretty much a national issue at this point. Our unemployment rate is basically hovering at record lows. And from a population growth standpoint, while Wood County's population, is growing a little bit, obviously, regionally, we're really not. And so that's what really matters, right? Because people commute to jobs and everything. So we do need more housing here, just like everywhere else. We need affordable housing. We need options for people to come into the market. Starter options as well as executive options, so that you have that whole gamut of that industry available to people. So if they want to move here, they can find something readily available and move here.
some of the things we've heard out of the governor's office with wanting to make the Columbus area, central part of Ohio, the new Silicon Valley of the Midwest. So as that ebb and flow starts to cycle outward and maybe reach Northwest Ohio, how do you, I guess, as an economic development director, jump on that wave or grab part of that?
Yeah, I mean, interesting. There's a couple different ways to go about that. I mean, we may get some interest from suppliers. We haven't seen a lot yet come through the pipeline in terms of suppliers to Intel at this point. But more interestingly, that's a huge project, right, with thousands of jobs, including the suppliers that have to be just in time that are probably going to be like right there on site, and very well paid jobs, right? And so what you may very well see is, because the Columbus market, again, also has a very low unemployment rate, is that companies may choose not to try to compete down there. And we actually may end up getting more opportunities for different projects up here in northwestern Ohio, because they don't necessarily want to be down there competing with that new Silicon investment setup that they have down there in the Columbus area. So we expect we'll get some of the suppliers that don't have the geographical necessity of being right in Columbus, again, because we have a lot of the assets they'd be looking for. But we also expect there are going to be businesses that would maybe look at Columbus, but maybe are taking a second look now at maybe Northwest Ohio, or obviously other places in Ohio as well, just due to the amount of investment going in there for that project and its suppliers.
And with that being said, obviously over the last few weeks, we have even broadcasted here the news of Middleton Township, right there in the smack dab in the middle of Wood County, a data center.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure this one particularly, but I mean, that's the kind of, those are some of the things you may see. I mean, this one, they located at a site that gives them access, with data centers need, to a lot of power, right? They're right on a brand new, very large substation that First Energy put in there in Middleton Township. And that's their primary driver, right? They need lots of land that's zoned, but they also need a lot of power. And ideally, you want them in areas that are, near interstates and highways and things like that, as opposed to, them trying to put this out in the country somewhere, where it would be maybe in a rural area where they might have that power, but they don't have anything else. And so this was an area, some of this area was already zoned before they started looking at it. And they've obviously looked at rezoning more of it. It's a nice location for them, and it's a relatively low impact use. And I think that, for the surrounding area, data centers, not huge employers, so you're not gonna have a lot of traffic, effectively no trucks, right? I mean, they don't have truck traffic. And outside of construction, you're gonna have pretty minimal kind of car movements, truck movements, anything like that put on the roadways. And there's gonna be a lot of landscaping involved. They have a lot of area that's not gonna be covered by, buildings out there. And so it's a pretty good fit out there. It's a huge valuation. So it's great for the schools, great for the township, great for the county in terms of the valuation of those buildings, especially when you consider the limited impact on services that they're going to generate due to the lack of car and truck movements.
But I think you touched on something, and I know we don't have names out there just yet of who is coming in, but you said this could have gone elsewhere. This could have gone out of the country. It went to Wood County. How did that get done?
A lot of work over a lot of time. So there's a lot of, we have a big team that we work with when we do these projects. And so, we got the team together early, talked to the client. We didn't know who they were, which is common, right? Every one of these companies comes in with a code name. They're still basically using a code name. They have an entity they've set up to, purchase the land and build the project. But they, came in, we just knew it was a data center. And, we got everybody together, the utilities together. We got, the Port Authority, RGP Jobs Ohio. We had our local, officials that would be involved in the project, in on this. So kind of everybody knew what we needed to get this project going. And you have to get buy-in from everybody too, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the trustees had to rezone, some land in order for this project to go forward. We had to get a tax abatement passed, working on a TIF agreement as well, to get these things put together. And so there's a lot of moving pieces to these projects. And that, we do that very well. We've done that on lots of projects for this. What really drove them, I think, here was the land availability. The fact that some of it was already zoned, for their liking. And like I said before, the massive amount of power that they have access to, and then obviously with the water and sewer district right there, the water that they also need for these projects. So that was all kind of right there for them. They found us like they do all over the place, right? They have a team of people that probably looks for sites all over the country that have these power needs, and then they start sorting through to see if they can meet all their other demands as well as just the power.
There was a time when Perrysburg was really active. Rossford had its moment. It's still having its moments. Where do you see kind of the activity level right now, obviously heading into the fourth quarter, heading into the first quarter of 24?
Yeah, we kind of see it. It's still everywhere, right? We have sites throughout the county, and we've got businesses that are growing and expanding throughout the county. BG's got some projects going on. There's projects down in North Baltimore, the UPS facility that was a while ago is going to be coming online this, fourth quarter of this year. Hancock Wood has a spec building down there as well that, I know is frequently showing it to clients. Rossford, as you mentioned, is still booming. Perrysburg has a lot of growth opportunities as well as Northwood. And then we're seeing a lot in the township areas. Really, it's very spread out throughout the county right now, what we're seeing in terms of interest in both new projects, but also in terms of existing companies expanding and investing throughout the county. We kind of see that going forward for the end of this year. Next year, really, we don't have a good, visual on yet. And we'll see where that goes. Obviously, like we just mentioned, the interest rates are going to have an impact on that. But, so far, they haven't really in terms of what we've seen from an economic development perspective.
You can catch this show on YouTube, WTOL 11 YouTube channel. It's also a podcast. Thank goodness for Zoom this week. Have a good one.